Hello and welcome back to the Wine with Jimmy channel here on the world of YouTube. Thank you so much for stopping by. This is a wine educational channel which really is designed to help you really enjoy wine better. And it's specifically aimed at those of you studying your wine examinations. Now, in this series, we call this the WSET Level 3 SAT Full Examiner Tasting Notes. So the Wine and Spirit Educational Trust Level 3 Systematic Approach to Tasting Full Examiner's Tasting Notes. I select really available wines on the high street in the United Kingdom. So you can go and purchase these and taste along and compare them to an examiner's notes. Really good practice for your wine tasting examination for the level 3. Now, if you have any comments or questions or concerns, please do pop it in the comments section below this video. Make sure you click subscribe and also the like button. And you can get also in touch with the social media that you see at the bottom of every slide if you are that way inclined. So the first wine we have here is the Yering station, the Elms Pinot Noir, which is produced in Victoria, mainly Yarra Valley fruit in Australia. And it's the 2020. The alcohol is 13%. And the price is £13 from Waitrose Cellar. Okay, so I'm going to go through my tasting notes so you can taste along. It will follow logically: appearance, nose, palate, and conclusions. So potentially, if you want to go ahead and taste and scribble your tasting note down, then you can compare to what I will show you. So let's rock and roll. Now, of course, first things first are the appearance with wine tasting, and it is only 2 marks available to the student on this section. So I've actually crossed through clarity and I've crossed through other observations because they do not gain the student any marks. You're more than welcome if you wish to put them down, but they do not gain marks. So here you'll see I have put this down as a pale wine because it has very, very easy transparency. You can easily see through it. And please, at home, if you are tasting along, make sure that you are utilizing an ISO glass, which is the International Standard Organization glass. Here you can see mine with the Wine with Jimmy logo on it, which you can purchase from our shop at www.winewithjimmy.com. So yes, this is pale, and then the color of this is either purple ruby, garnet tawny, or brown. Now I have selected ruby for this one, which is the reddish color of most wines. So pale ruby normally dictates to us that this wine often will be a red fruited style and often normally quite light, with exceptions like Nebbiolo. So pale ruby in terms of its appearance. Then we have the nose, intensity, and develop. Now I'm actually splitting the nose in 2 areas. The nose, you do find 7 total marks available, 2 for the intensity and development just here, and then the aroma compounds, which there are 5 available. So you'll see here that I have selected the intensity as medium minus or medium. Now, as an examiner, I am allowed to give a range on 2 of the wine tasting notes lines. So this is one of my first. Medium minus or medium. You have to put one or the other to get the mark. And then the development here, I did not find tertiary on this very young wine, so I selected this down at youthful. Now, if you look at the marketing spiel for this wine, they mention things like tertiary compounds like forest floor and wet leaves. I just don't get them. I'm sorry, it's not here in this wine. I think they're making it sound a little bit sexier than it is. Medium minus or medium and youthful in development. So 2 marks there. Then we have our 5 marks available for any of these compounds. You see that it's split into primary, which is on the left-hand side, secondary at the top of the right, and tertiary. I have not listed anything in tertiary. That is why this wine is youthful on the previous slide. There are no tertiary compounds. Now, when you stick your nose in the glass, normally some of the most aromatic compounds are floral. Here, there's kind of like slightly purple blossom, rose as well, the first things, and then red fruits. Now I have listed quite a big group because you'll see red currant and cranberry. These are actually characteristics that I found more on the palate. And then raspberry, strawberry, and cherry, specifically cherry, and then sort of raspberry. Now these are more nose, but this is actually, I cannot as an examiner make a difference between the nose and the palate. So if I find red currant on the palate, it's automatically on the nose and vice versa. So red fruit list just there. At this level, you do not need to, for marks anyway, put down things like ripe red cherry. You don't need to put underripe or anything like that at this time. You can and get used to it, but the marks aren't there for it. You just need to list the aroma compound. I find it quite brightly red fruited as well, which is good. A little bit of kirsch, certainly not jammy, but quite bright with its red fruit. So I've listed kirsch here. There's a little bit of a herbaceous note in this wine. So I've listed black currant leaf as an available one. Some of you might put tomato leaf. We can accept that if you do have that down. A little bit of lavender, which goes in with the floral compounds. A little bit of white pepper and something just a little bit graphitey, a bit stony behind it as well. And then oak regime is very delicate, very, very delicate. Cinnamon, cedar, clove, vanilla, chardwood, and smoke are the key areas. Now, there are 5 marks available spread out across any of those, okay? Now, please remember that there is no negative marking. On a wine like this, I would hope that you, the student, would list about 10 compounds. And if you struggle to list too many, think about what we call aroma or flavor association. So if you, normally if you've got raspberry, there should be strawberry in there, for example. So you can pop that down. And red cherry, normally there's things like... your raspberries as well. So there's flavor association. It's the same with on white wines with apple. Normally you'll have pear. So there's that kind of flavor and aroma association. So an examiner is likely to group some of those together because they're quite similar. Okay, so that's the nose complete. We have done medium or medium minus intensity, a youthful wine with these compounds. Then we come to the palate, which there is 7 marks available. And then we'll talk about the aromas where there are 3 marks available. So there is a total of 10 marks on the palate, but I'm splitting it to the palate characteristics and then the palate flavors. So here you've got dry. It's one of your big given marks, quite an easy mark for the red wine. It's likely to be dry. There's only a few that will be off dry in your syllabus. So dry, very high acidity behind this wine. Pinot Noir normally has it. Lots of reds these days are picked more on their acidities rather than their alcohols and ripeness. So that's good acidity behind this. Now, the tannin level on this is actually quite low, and I wouldn't accept anything greater. It's a very soft and delicate wine. So we have gone for low in a low tannin here. Medium alcohol comes in at 13% alcohol, so medium alcohol. And the body, though, the only thing that will give this wine a bit more body would be that alcoholic edge, because the acidity makes it very light. The tannin makes it very light. That's pointing really towards light. So this is a light-bodied style, okay? Also, the fruit is very gentle. It's nice and bright, but it's quite delicate with its body. Flavor intensity, I will give a range here, medium minus or medium. So you can be in that range. That's my second range, which is complete. And the finish is not great. It lasts for about 25, 30 seconds. It's somewhere around medium again for the length. Okay, so 7 marks available there for this wine. Then we go on to the 3 marks for flavor characteristics. You'll see that that's not been highlighted here because this goes on to the next slide. Here you are. And it's the same group as the nose. So please make sure you can find 3 within this category. So blossom, rose, all those red fruits, kirsch, blackcurrant leaf, lavender, white pepper, whetstones, vanilla cloves, cedar, childwood, smoke, cinnamon. Once again, there's no negative marking, so you should be writing a fair big list. And on this, please write something between 5 and 15 flavors and aromas. So that's both on the nose and on the palate. And most of the time, it should copy what you are getting on the nose. Really, if you are listing a load of things on nose, you should be immediately copying that to the palate. And maybe you can amend a couple of things depending on the wine style. But the same list, I'm not allowed to differentiate as an examiner between the nose and the palate. So that's the same list as before. So 3 marks available. That totals up to 10 marks. So that's the palate complete. Then we come to the final 2 marks, which is on the conclusions. So this is at the bottom of this slide this time, but I've put at the top what we call the BLIC process, the BLIC process, which is the process to help you determine the quality level. This is not certainly something you have to use, but it is very useful to help you come up with your assessment. So balance, okay, is there anything out of balance in the wine? So is there anything that is overtly alcoholic, overtly sweet, overtly tannic? Is there lacking in certain characteristics? Is it overtly oaky? You know, lots of things can set a wine out of balance. Length is needing to be long. So it needs to be long for a mark. Intensity is in reference to the wine's body. It's how intense and well-defined the characteristics are. So the fruits and the flowers and so on. And in reference to the body, if you have got better intensity than the body, so maybe medium minus like we have here, compared to a light-bodied wine, then that's fairly well defined. If it was lacking though, maybe you had a full-bodied wine and only showing medium intensity, that would not be very defined fruit. Complexity is, of course, if you've got a multitude of characteristics that spread across the descriptors and clusters. So that's across primary, secondary, and tertiary. It doesn't have to be across all 3, but it's a lot. And in this wine, of course, there wasn't much. So I put balance, yes, there's nothing out of balance with this wine. It doesn't have a long length. It has good intensity for a very delicate wine that it is, but it's not complex. Those 2 marks mean that this wine is good, because 1 mark would be acceptable, 2 for good, 3 for very good, and 4 for outstanding. This wine is a really delicate wine with very, very gentle characteristics. It has very low tannin. It really would be a wine for immediate consumption rather than age. The argument is whether you think it would become complex with some time. I don't think it would. I think it will lose. It might gain a couple more characteristics, but I don't think it will be enough to say this wine is complex. So we say drink now, not suitable for aging or further aging. Okay, so that brings me to the conclusion of this wine. The total marks available are 21 for the red. It's 20 for the white. So we're just doing, of course, this wine on this tasting note. If you scored 12 or 13, you would gain a pass. If you scored 14, 15, 16, you'll gain a merit, and 17 and above is a distinction. So tot up those and see how you did, and pop them in the comments section below to see how well you did. So that is the end of the tasting notes. I do hope you have found this useful. Many more tasting notes coming. Once again, any comments, questions, or concerns, please get in touch by commenting in the comments section below this video and click like and subscribe. There's also social media at the bottom of every slide. If you are interested in the tasting process and you need more confidence, please look at my video, which is the tasting examination preparation. That's a long video to really help you with everything you need to know for the tasting process. Until next time, please, if you're in London, come and see me for a class, a glass, or a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Goodbye.